Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to this Friday morning and the second series in our series for the golf industry and business seminars that the Southern California PGA is presenting. And we're very honored this morning to have our section vice president, Mr. Eric Lohman, who will give us a great presentation on the effect that COVID had, continues to have, whether beneficial over the past year and a half, and of course, maximizing revenues during these times. So we're very happy, very proud to have Eric, who also, well, I shouldn't say also, who is the general manager at Monarch Beach Golf Links, as well as the section vice president. Eric, thanks a lot for being here this morning, and break a leg.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate everybody who's taking the time out of their busy schedule to watch this presentation. I was asked a few weeks back by John Kulo, the chairperson of the education committee. John is the general manager of Monterey Country Club out in the desert, and he asked if I would participate in their GIBS series. He's in charge of this programming, and we talked a little bit about maybe what a good topic would be for us to discuss. And we ended up talking a little bit about the COVID effect. And obviously we've all witnessed some pretty unique challenges, obviously at the places that we work, and obviously in our own personal life. But we're managing it, and out of that, we've now increased the interest in golf and the volume of golfers. And whether you're a person who sells retail at a big box store, or you're an instructor, you're a golf professional at a club, general manager like myself, we're all faced with some unique and different challenges, of which golf is very, very popular, and the interest has certainly peaked. So the COVID effect a little bit is a talk about how hopefully you all have taken advantage of the increase and hopefully updated your operations to prosper from that. And then we can talk just a little bit about how on the flip side, by being a little bit more proactive, you can hopefully not only on the upside take advantage of that, but then on the downside be able to cope. Because at some point with the COVID effect, you will probably start to see a little bit of a recession in interest, albeit none of us really know what that will be. But we will have set a standard or raised the bar financially with all of our owners and our senior managers of what our expectations will be. So again, the COVID effect is literally this interest of golf. Hopefully we're maximizing that to our benefit, our club's benefit, our members' benefits, and our owners' benefits. And so how are we going to mitigate that once it kind of starts to dissipate? Although I can be selfish and hope that it doesn't dissipate all that much. So again, these slides will just kind of go through that a little bit, and we will certainly answer any questions that you have at the end of this. We hope to have you for about another 40-45 minutes. And if anybody would like to reach out to me directly, feel free to do that. I certainly can answer your questions offline as well. But I just wrote down something here, and we'll just talk through it a little bit. Golf rounds and interest are significantly up. I'd have to defer to Tom and some folks that have worked longer in the industry than I to know of any time where we've seen interest peak this much. For some people who are in like tourism markets or destination markets like the desert, maybe you'd see a season or two that have been extremely busy. I've been in running facilities now for over 20 years, and I can't ever recall where this interest for memberships, lessons, retail, golf rounds has been this great. But the biggest, most important question, I guess, that we're talking about today is, have you been, or was your club in a position to take advantage of that opportunity? And by taking advantage of that opportunity, I mean, were you able to raise pricing, increase maybe your programming, find additional revenue streams, something that would potentially benefit the overall health of your club? If not, why not? And how do you get yourself and your operation to be more proactive and at least reactive? Any operation that hasn't adjusted and has been static, meaning they just sort of are doing the same stuff today that they did last year, that they did the year before, if you really haven't changed, then I think you've really missed the boat And unfortunately, you probably have lost 30 to 40% of additional revenue if you had been a little bit more proactive. But again, any operation that hasn't just been static has simply missed this golf wave, which continues to push forward. All successful golf operations and all types of businesses are aware of current trends and are prepared to proactively adjust for future issues and opportunities. What factors might play into that success or their success? And that's what we're going to talk about today. This GIBS seminar will offer up some of the best practices that we have here at Monarch Beach Golf Links. And just to give you a little bit of my background, I'm 47 today and been the GM here at Monarch Beach for the past 9 years. But prior, I'd been the Director of Sales and Marketing at Cimarron Golf Resort, which we opened up in the desert in late 1997 or 1998. And then I went over to Black Gold Golf Club, spent 7.5 years there doing something similar in sales and marketing. Then I went over to Oak Creek Golf Club in Pelican Hill and helped out the Irvine Company for a few years, and then came over here. So for literally the last 20 years of my life, I've been working with operators and my owners and our management companies to generate additional revenue and to keep pushing forward and trying to improve our property. So today, again, we're going to talk a little about some of the things that we've done at some of my clubs and what I'd recommend that you all take consideration in doing as well. First and foremost, I think to really take advantage of that and to really understand what's going on, you got to have a really good understanding of the financials of your facility. You can ask the folks that work here. It's something that I dive into a lot. I know sales and marketing is sort of my strength, but understanding the financials and understanding the impact of some of the decisions that we make really truly is what might set us apart and really is what allows me to be successful at my current role. These are just some of the examples of things that we have to work with here. And again, in about 45 minutes, I'm going to run to a finance meeting where I'll be demonstrating some of my competencies with some of these in front of our ownership group in a large committee that kind of oversees the finances of our resort. A on this list is to write and fully understand a budget and a strategic plan. I challenge you that if you're not somebody who is directly responsible for this, I recommend that you at least talk to the folks at your facility that are, so that you can learn a little bit more about it and get a little bit more involved. That's one of the things that I'm going to be focusing on this year with like Brandon Delgado, who works for us, making sure that when he's in charge of his own operation, although he pretty much runs this one, that he fully understands our budget. And in the case of like in my situation, being the general manager, I'm in charge of a maintenance budget, a sales and marketing plan, which is the strategic plan, and food and beverage, retail, membership, and obviously golf operations, which here at a resort, between the golfers, the rental clubs, the caddies, all the ancillary spend that we could potentially make, the budget ends up being a pretty extensive deal. But one, you have to get your hands dirty. You have to get involved. You have to be able to write the budget, guide your senior managers in the right direction that they need to go in, and always be aware of sort of what's the requirements that your owners, your board of directors, or the folks that you report to, what they want. And the strategic plan, by the way, is simply a marketing communications plan that helps you fill in all the revenues. And again, we're going to talk a lot about being proactive and reactive here in this seminar. But a strategic plan is a very proactive approach of what you anticipate the next year to be. So, obviously we could never have predicted COVID. So that wasn't in our strategic plan, but obviously as we wrote one for this year, it was. And part of that strategic plan was, how do we take advantage of the increase of rounds? How do we drive average rate? How do we change up the player type mix so that at the end of the day, we have the right golfers coming, the right amount of golfers coming, generating the right amount of revenue. Second on this, sorry, if you go back one more. Thank you. The daily flash report. Now, this is something that maybe some of you get to work with, and if you don't, it's something that is a great tool for us. But every day, our finance person on site will take our daily recs from the day before and input them into a daily flash report, which I get to read. We send it out to all our managers, and it's pretty much a snapshot of what we've done for the month to date, and it compares you to your budget. And this is a really good tool to make adjustments on the fly throughout the month, whether you're checking on the volume of rounds, the average rate, the revenue. Maybe you're looking at noticing a trend that the retail sales are down a little bit, or food and beverage. But a daily flash report is really good at just making sure that you have a basic understanding of where you are for that month, but through the first part of the month. And you could be proactive enough, or reactive as well, that if you do notice a trend where it's either going higher or going lower, you can adjust your operations to help backfill those if you're lower in rounds, or raise rate if you're super busy. So that's something I definitely recommend that you look into if you don't have, or if you do get that, I recommend that you take a little bit more time to read that and see if you can adjust from that. Now, daily flash report I put on here might not be as important for a private club, because they kind of generally know, they have so many members that they have initiation fees and monthly dues. They do have some special events and guest play, but for the most part, they kind of know what they're going to do. But again, I'd recommend that anybody who's in charge definitely has an idea of where your financials are throughout that month as you go along through the month. The next, we have the weekly GM report and a financial look back. So each Friday, I'm responsible to write a GM report. My senior managers send me their notes as well. They're included in the report. I review those just to make sure that maybe there's something they're working on or an issue that I wasn't aware of. And then we do a little financial snapshot for the week, or where we are for the month to date at the top of that report. And then we send that out to a collective committee. The weekly PACE reports for those public facilities, the resort facilities that have tournament play being pretty important. Let's say you're at a club where tournament play is 10, 15, 20% of your overall play for the year. I think having somebody responsible to do a weekly or maybe bi-monthly PACE report is really instrumental. So here at our facility, Lion Lazar, our new director of sales, is responsible to give me a snapshot. He can pull the information out of our T sheet. And what it shows me is sort of where we are in our month to date, where we are next month, what's on the books, and where we are in a month out. So I can go 3 months out, and it compares me to my budget. It compares me to my forecast. It then looks at how we did the prior year. It looks at total rounds, whether it's FIT, frequent individual traveler, or group. That's how we break our play into 2 buckets. And it just gives me, it's just another way for me to look at information that could potentially predict the future. And then from there, we can make some adjustments if need be. And we have. We've had times where, like for group play, for example, we've had a lot of group play like in August and September already booked. So we noticed that like a couple, 2 or 3 months ago, that's when we would have just automatically raised our rate for additional groups. We've also looked at it where we've had, some groups months that weren't as busy. And that's where we're gonna maybe potentially do a promotional sale for group rounds to a certain list, or maybe try to re-engage some groups in the past that we might have overlooked. And then the monthly benchmark report, which is something that some people have gotten involved with a Sagacity, that tool that they have. The benchmark report is really good when your competitive set is involved, and you can compare yourself to your competitors and to the marketplace. And when you use a company like Sagacity, we'll talk more about them. They're certainly a great resource for being proactive, and that's what they're intended to help you with, to better understand your own financials, to help you understand what the future looks like coming in, and then to predict so that you can make some adjustments on the fly. The last couple things here, the monthly financials. One of my favorite things to do every month, which I've done for the previous 20 years, is to complete a financial packet. This is, I'll review the P&L with a few key managers. I'll provide some comments and some commentary that just helps me understand what happened, so that I can turn around and use that in a GM report, which I send to that same committee. And then finally, after I get done with the month, and I've kind of, I can see like, this is what I thought the month was going to do. This is what the month did. I've got all these other tools, and then I produce a forecast. And that forecast is sort of like a new budget. So if I'd written a budget right now for August and September and October, which I did the previous year. Just because I wrote that budget doesn't really mean that's what's going to happen. It's what I thought was going to happen a year ago, but as we all know, things change, new expenses, new opportunities, people come and go. So the forecast is just me kind of rewriting the budget to be as accurate as I can make it. And then it becomes a new benchmark for our club to try to exceed. And it's what we communicate back to our ownership group as well. Next slide. And here are just some additional recommended strategies to help you out as well. Be aware of macroeconomic factors that can affect customer participation and spend. Again, unless you're kind of caught up in a vacuum and you don't really pay attention. This is just simply, you know, watch the news, read a newspaper, talk to some of your colleagues, talk to reps. It's just really important that you understand kind of where you are, where we are as an industry, where your market is, and then other macro things that could potentially affect that. Elections, presidents, wars, recessions, stimulus checks. If the economy is really doing well, that's a good time to be robust. If people, you know, if the price of gas is up and there's a recession and people are kind of holding on to their money, it might be time for you to adjust your operations. So again, these are just simple suggestions. Keep an eye on the competition. I don't think there's anything negative with this. It's just simply being aware of what your competitive set is doing and you know, just trying to learn from them as well. I think most of us have a good rapport with each other. I recommend that you as well have a good rapport with your peers, whether they're people in your competitive set, like they're in your marketplace, like here in Orange County. You know, have a nice relationship with some of the other folks that run other golf clubs. And you know, it's not uncommon for one of us to email somebody and ask a question: how are things going? What are you seeing? It's also really good, you know, to shop your competition occasionally. See how they handle a request for a tournament or a wedding. See how they're responsive when they try to book a tee time. It's just very important that you kind of know what's going on in your marketplace. And a lot of times, a lot of things that we've done here, you know, we've either learned from one of our competitors and tried to do it a little bit better. So it's okay if we're not first to the race, but it's okay to kind of mimic somebody. You know, so that's something too. And you know, also we worked for a large company here, Troon Golf. I'm with OB Sports, which is part of Troon. So in our case, you know, it's always important for us to see what kind of best practices are going on at some of our other like properties across the country, and especially here in Southern California. Don't be stuck with the status quo. I think Brandon can attest here that given the opportunities, we take a lot of time here to talk about our operation. We do it in a very honest way. We ask ourselves what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong. You know, we're asking, you know, what are people asking for that maybe we don't have? And we try to make some improvement. Again, there's the right time and place for all of this. I would say like right now in the middle of summer, when we're as busy as we can be, it's probably not the best time, but as we flow into fall and into winter and spring, that's a great time for us to just revisit with the group, have some open dialogue where we come up with some really good, great ideas, fine tune the current things that we're doing, and just always trying to create just a little bit more positive culture, a little bit more positive atmosphere, a little bit better quality of product for our golfers. Involve your club senior leaders. Again, you know, I'm very lucky here. I've got some great people that work with me. So I have a core group of people that I probably trust a little bit more than others. And I try to throw ideas off of them. We make decisions as a group. And then the same with my boss and some of the folks with Troon. It's very important that you utilize the resources that you have and not just think that you're on your own with all of this. There's plenty of people, whether it's the section, the PGA of America, whether it's you know, the folks like myself that can assist you, whether it's a management company. There's a lot of people out there that can provide guidance, and there's a lot of great tools that are on the internet now and newsletters, whether it's Golf Inc. or a lot of the industry magazines that come from the Club Managers Association, Boardroom Magazine. As you go on and on, your superintendent gets some great advice from the Golf Course Superintendents Association as well. These are all great resources, and it's not, you can't tackle all this all the time, but it doesn't hurt to take a look into some of this stuff and just see what's out there. Another great resource is PGA Magazine, and through their marketing efforts, they have some great best practices. Again, there's a lot of information, but if you can pick off some of that every now and then, you too will create a culture of change and see some improvement. Right here, it says invite guest voice, team member voice. I think this is a really important thing that hopefully you're doing at your clubs. You know, it's very important for me to get feedback from my staff to see how they're doing, what's going on, what are they hearing, what are they seeing. You know, I don't have, I'm not here 100% of the time, and I don't always see exactly what I need to see. So when I ask the guests that play golf here, whether it's through an email or through communication or through a questionnaire after we have a special event, it's very important that we review that just to see if there's something that we need to do. Team member voice, that's the staff. So one is very important, the guest voice, and the other one is the team member voice. They are the ones, a lot of our staff interact more on a one-on-one basis with our customers. It's very important to hear what they have to say. And again, when you create a culture of change and a very positive culture of improvement, which takes some effort, you have got to hire the right people, nurture those folks, support them appropriately, and then you invite customer voice and a team member voice. You really have a nice framework to work with to create that positive change moving forward. Again, when we come back to the original topic of COVID effect, all these things had to be in play for us to take advantage of the COVID effect. And I think, you know, without this opportunity, if this wasn't already in play, I don't think we would have been as proactive and financially, you know, without, you know, telling you exactly how we're doing. You know, our club is having a record month. Brandon, how many months in a row have we had a record month? 16 straight record months. And it's not just 16 straight record months, which I think is impressive. We've also exceeded the prior year the last 9 years. So I don't think that will always happen. I think we'll eventually maybe run into a obstacle month. But again, that's the goal that we have. We've created the culture to do it, and we have the tools and we utilize them to help us push forward. Slide. These are some specific best practices for municipality, daily fee, resort golf properties. We're all the same. We sell frequent individual traveler, like foursomes of golf. We have, most of us have cardholder programs, and we book golf groups. Some of us are fortunate enough, if you're a municipality, you have the constituents within a city to support you. You know, daily fee property kind of sits out on its own. And then a resort like we have here at Monarch Beach, we're able to hopefully attract some golfers from the resort and some of the local resorts that are around us here in South Orange County. But a lot of these practices kind of apply to all of us. If you haven't already embraced dynamic pricing for a daily fee golf property, that's something I would recommend you look into. By now, you've probably been educated about it. It's essentially, you just don't have static pricing. You know, I think in the past we might have charged, you know, whatever it was, $80 during the week, $120 on weekends. There might have been like a pre-twilight or early bird rate, say before 8, and then after 11, somebody would have done a twilight. After 1, there would have been a super twilight. Kind of lock the rates in for the year and just go sell. That's not the case anymore. A lot of times, you know, because of the flexibility of the tee sheet and because of the interest levels of people, you know, why on earth would we ever just charge the same rate every single day? If you're 100% sold out or you're quite busy, don't you think at some point supply versus demand would kick in and you'd want to charge a higher rate? Because the customer would be willing to pay it, and therefore you'd enjoy some additional revenue. So if you're not familiar with dynamic pricing or have any questions, feel free to reach out. But it's something that you definitely want to embrace, and it's something that the more you can get good at and the more you can pay attention to, I think the better off your operation will be. And the other thing is, I challenge you as an operator, the GM, the director of golf, the head golf professional, to become your facilities revenue manager. I know that we talked a lot about, and you've seen it in the past, like the golf, the PGA member does a lot of different things. And obviously, first and foremost, we're out there communicating and being the face of our facilities. We're leading a team of people. We're giving lessons, we're selling retail, we're doing a lot of positive things. But I don't remember, 10, 15 years ago when that great advertisement came out with all the things that we were. Revenue manager was on that. Well, in this day and age, I recommend that you start diving into that idea. And like I mentioned earlier, to utilize a tool or a company like Sagacity, like we do here, is invaluable. Sagacity, which has been and will continue to be a friend and a partner of the Southern California PGA. If you're not that familiar, I recommend that you look them up online, look through some of their tools, even potentially reach out and talk to them. It's amazing a deck of tools that they have, or tool options that they have in regards to helping you dynamically price, understand your financials, understand your progress with your tee sheet. But what they can really help you do, which is great, is they can make sure that you maximize the potential revenue for your daily fee golfer, your foursomes. They can help you with your group rounds. Again, I don't know how many of you out there sell group, but if you do sell group, do you always sell it at the same price, whether it's a weekday or a weekend, whether it's a slower month or a busier month, whether it's in the morning or the afternoon? Sagacity has a tool which we utilize, which just is sort of, in our case, is more like a check. We have enough experience now that we know what price we should charge for a round of golf. But sometimes we have to double check and utilize a tool like Sagacity to just validate what price we're going to charge. And it just makes sure that when you utilize their tool, you can put some information into it. And what it does is it sends you, or it tells you what price you should pay, or what you would make if you didn't book the group. And then you can charge more than that to the group. And then that kind of helps you frame what your average price for that group round should be. The other thing that Sagacity doesn't do that I would just recommend, I don't know if I put it in here, is take a look at your groups and analyze how much money you make those days when it comes to food and beverage and when it comes to retail. And what we noticed here at Monarch Beach is we had some groups that produced great retail sales and great food and beverage. And then on the flip side, we had some groups that didn't sell much of anything. Customers went straight to their carts, they played, maybe we agreed and allowed them to bring in some donated food or what have you. And we noticed that on some of those days, we were actually making less money than we would if we hadn't booked the group. So in that case, what I'd recommend doing is just try to understand what each tee time is worth, the revenue per available round. And then if you need to, you would hold those groups and tell them they have to have a minimum spend for food and beverage per person, and they have to have a minimum spend for retail. Those groups are coming to us to have their events with us. And unfortunately, there's some outside influences that are prohibiting us at times from making money, whether that's these groups trying to save a penny and trying to get somebody to donate some liquor or some beer, or not, bringing in some promotional items instead of buying stuff from our retail stores. So I recommend that you take a look at that as well. And again, I think the kiss of death, and probably one of the failures that some of us might have made through COVID, and hopefully you've adjusted now. If you haven't, I'd recommend that you get out there before it's too late, is again, having static rates. One of the things that I've seen at golf courses, which to me is just kind of loopy, is people have set their twilight and super twilight times, and they've like preset them, yet every day sun up comes earlier or goes later, sundown. So you should have those, whether you have them is one thing, but if you do have them, make sure that they float with the daylight in the day. Don't have them all the same year round. Most of us have tee sheets now that help us with that. So I recommend that if you're not doing that and adjusting the twilight and super twilight times, that you get into a system where you're at least doing that as well. And then the other thing is ask yourself, it used to always be the case that like you would charge like $80 and then quickly go to $50 for twilight and say 30 for super twilight. Why not look at doing like a little bit of a blend where it goes 80, 75, 70. You progressively get a little less as you get less daylight. Again, it's not a static number. It's a number that fluctuates. If you do that, I think you're going to start to see that you'll make a little additional revenue in those times. I don't know why, and I understand that, again, in years past and status quo in certain areas, like residents get discounts. For municipalities, it makes a lot of sense. You're either mandated by your by the folks that run your city, the city council, the city manager, because they're the ones who bought and paid for that facility. But I see a lot of other places that have resident discount rates, which to me, I'd have to just analyze your own particular situation to make sure that's justified. If you eliminated the resident discount rates and all these other places that don't require them, then everybody would just sort of pay what the average rate should be. Senior rates are another thing. We're so quick to give a discount when we don't necessarily need to. The other thing is looking at the age of your senior rate. Does 50 make a senior, 55, 60, 63? With all of these, I think what you're going to notice is that static rates are going away. Twilight and super twilight times are getting shrunk. So instead of twilight being, say, 5.5 hours before sundown, it might only be 4.5. Super twilight, instead of 3.5, might only be 2.5. And they're going to stick with more of how the sunrise and sun sets. Resident rates, senior rates, they might be held, they might either be eliminated or only be extended to people who buy into like a membership program. Again, you need to be more proactive, and you need to take a look at all these. And again, see if you can adjust them every year, every so often, to take a little bit more advantage of the folks that want to play golf at our places, because there's an abundance of them at this point in time. Next slide. So this is one of the areas where I've seen, our club possibly, maybe left some money on the table last year, and where I've seen some other clubs, and we're working. I know that this year we adjusted our membership program, or we call it our cardholder program, which is essentially an Allegiant program. So for the folks who call about the resident play or call about the senior discount, who live locally, who want to play here a little bit more frequently, but our pricing might be a little too much to have them play that often, that's when we sell our Links card program. And we spent a good 2-3 months analyzing our prior program, which was going on through the beginning of COVID. And what we noticed is that what should have been a filler for us, obviously booking other golfers, the regular play, the tournaments, the resort, those are the higher paying customers. What we noticed is that our membership program was primarily the driver for most of our rounds, at least this first 7-8 months of COVID. The resorts that we have around us certainly didn't support us because they were either shut down or their occupancies were very restricted. Tournament play went away. But what we noticed is that 50, 60, 70% of our play at times was our cardholder program. Now, the problem that we had here was that we had 2 cardholder programs, one which was a little bit more expensive, and it had static rates. And because of the interest in golf and because of the way we sold everything, more people over time had shifted from our dynamically priced program, which was less expensive, and moved into our static program. And at the beginning of COVID, it's like that program just doubled within 30 days. And because the program had already been locked at how we were going to sell it, and it wasn't, we didn't have the flexibility within that program to adjust pricing. Everybody kind of knew what they were going to pay, how far out they could book, and how many golfers they could bring. And we just witnessed a ton of golfers play, and the average rate just barely went up. So what we did is we got very proactive. We raised the price to play. We made it dynamically priced. We reduced the number of guests they could bring. We charged more per guest that they brought. And all these things have really helped us. So this year, starting May 1st, although the interest from that group still stays about the same as it used to be, we're now making 35% more per guest fee, which again, when you look at a facility like ours, probably like yours, that's probably at capacity or over capacity, every dollar more that you can make on a guest fee is one more dollar you make to the bottom line, which has allowed us here to spend more money on maintenance, or spend more money on payroll. We're taking a more proactive approach at trying to upgrade some of the facility items that we have and offer more programming and more amenities to the customers. So again, by being proactive, like we did last year, it's allowed us to to take more advantage of that. Again, we started selling this year's program in May. I've already jotted down 4 or 5 ideas for the next program, which starts in November for the following year, because even though that we've made it more advantageous for the club, I think it's there's still a little bit more wiggle room in that. So again, if you have cardholder programs in the last few years, you haven't really changed them much, I recommend that you take a good hard look at your cardholder program. You look into trying to do dynamic pricing. You try not to be as specific to the discounts you provide, the rates you will charge, and you try to create a little bit of that flexibility within that program so that you can make some adjustments on the fly. The other couple ideas here I think that are great, which either flow within this or not, but consider a monthly fee model for your loyalty card. That's something that we're going to look at here in the next couple of months, whether or not it's something that we'll do. But I've seen some golf courses that do a monthly fee for their card, not a annual fee, but more of that massage envy type program. They charge a rate. They can change that rate. It's a monthly fee. They give everybody a 30-day notice if they're going to change something, whether it's the pricing of the rounds, or if it's the price to pay per month, or if it's the what's included in it. But every 30 days, they have the ability to adjust their own programming. Now, whether they do that, I don't know, but it does give them the greatest amount of flexibility that I've seen. Something I'd recommend that you consider. The other thing that we've talked a little bit about, which is that's not going to be on, it does not apply really to cardholder programming, but smaller booking windows for promotional rounds. There's some great resources out there if you'd like to book, whether it's underpar.com, whether or not you've created your own underpar, like in underpar, if you're not that familiar, but underpar can sell either a golf package or can sell like a golf round vouchers. But again, this is very much an opportunity for us as operators to sell some of those at a higher rate, maybe less opportunity, so they can't book it as far in advance. And maybe you can even black out more of your higher peak times. Again, if you had that information in front of you and you knew exactly what dates you should block out, what times your higher peak times that you shouldn't maybe offer that promotion, then you shrink that promotional time frame that they can book. Again, that just takes that opportunity. Hopefully you'll continue to sell at the same volume that you always have, or the volume that you wish, but it won't be a negative effect onto your financials. It'll be a positive effect because it'll just fill in where you want it, not be the driver like some of us have probably witnessed in the past. Next slide. So for a public daily fee golf course, I would just be fearful of that annual membership. We have one here that we sell. We've adjusted the price. I think we adjusted the price 2 or 3 times last year. We currently have it priced very, very high. We sell it through our resort. We do have a small wait list for it. But what happened was once you started diving into the annual membership, what we were witnessing is we were charging a small fee per month, or if you amortize it, or if you just put it all together, would look like a fairly significant amount of money to join our annual membership. Ended up being our lowest paid guest fee. So we analyzed it, we looked at it, and unfortunately, during a time where we weren't financially strapped, we didn't need the extra play. We had a bunch of members that were playing at our high peak times. They were being quite demanding because there was more play, pace of play was a little slower, course conditions were a little bit more beat up, yet they were paying us the least amount of money to play. So I would take a good hard look at your annual membership just to make sure that makes sense. Maybe you either raise the price on it, you can try to make it less advantageous for the user, or maybe you pause it for a few years until it's something that you might want to reconsider back down the road. I talked about it earlier, but definitely own your own database. Take the effort to grow your database. Again, one of those opportunities that has occurred over the last 18 months, and hopefully the next 18 months, is this abundance of new golfers, bunch of golfers, old golfers that hadn't been playing all that much, or your core golfers that come an awful lot. I would recommend that you do your best to get emails from those folks and then engage them and utilize that to potentially sell your own promotional twosome or foursome at an off-peak time if you need to. But grow your databases and then utilize those databases to help you out. Same with your social media platforms. It's a great way to engage your guests. Analyze third-party relationships. Just make sure that you're winning that, whether it's you're offering them wholesale rates or Golf Now, for example, you want to always try to drive the best rate on your own website, drive the eyes to your own website. And if you have to dabble in some of the dark sciences with the other folks, then just make sure that that relationship is advantageous to you. If you use a barter system, make sure that it's the right type, the right time, the right amount. Or if you analyzed all that right now and you looked at it and said, well, gosh, if I just paid him a flat fee, our club would have saved a bunch of money. That's something that we did several years back, and it's helped us out with Golf Now. Again, we talked about shop your competition. And we talked a little bit about, don't forget the ancillary spend. One little trick of the trade for retail and food and beverage is shop your competitors, find out what they're charging for the Pro Vs, the Bud Lights, the hats, things of that nature, and see if you can drive a little bit more margin in those higher interest items. So I ask twice a year, we analyze our cost of sales. We look at it monthly with our P&L, but we're always looking, again, to drive a little bit more sales and try to improve our cost of sales. So by doing that, you're just going to increase your margin on all those products that you sell. Next slide. All right, private equity, private non-equity. And I appreciate you for sticking with me and listening to me talk. We only got a few more slides left. Again, we're at a daily fee resort property, and there are some folks out there that probably know a lot more about the private equity, private non-equity side. But in the same regards, hopefully those folks are being proactive as well. And I think you probably have witnessed that. Most memberships that I know of, at least in the Orange County market, are full. Most of the clubs are doing their best effort at raising their initiation fees, raising monthly dues. Again, being proactive during this amount of time is the best time. This is the best time to take advantage of the state that we're in. And again, if everyone in our industry can just push forward in a positive way, then it should be more beneficial to all of us. You take that extra revenue that you're making and you re-spend it. You spend it back on the facilities. You spend it back on improving your facilities, improving your programming, better engagement with your customers. That's going to really help us out in the future moving forward for the game of golf. You're seeing social members, junior members, sub-membership categories. At a club, I know in Orange County, they just redid their social membership program, which is crazy to think about it. They just analyzed it. And they came up with this, analyzing that their social membership was way too advantageous for the social member. And they just will make this effect 30 days from now. So they went through the entire COVID, the last 15 months with a social membership that was too strong. It was actually a disadvantage for the full member, and it was more positive for the social member. So again, maybe you could say they weren't proactive because maybe if they had adjusted sooner or had set it up correctly the first time, they wouldn't have had to adjust it. But at least they were reactive, and they've made the decision now to do that. So again, whether you're at your private club or your public facility, just recommend that you take a look at all these and ask yourself, is this a win for us or is this a win for them? And obviously we're trying to create loyalty, and we're trying to create core customers and happy members. So it's probably not going to be one that's just a straight win for us and one that's a straight win for them. It's going to be one that's somewhere in the middle. Outside revenue versus exclusivity versus higher initiation fees. That's imitation fees, but initiation fees and dues. Again, clubs just have to take a good hard look at, how much outside play will they allow? This is a private club. How many Monday events? How exclusive do they want to be? Again, the idea would be that you take advantage of this influx of interest and create a new club culture if you wanted to at this moment in time. And maybe you followed the way your club wants you to be, and you guys are doing a great job, so kudos to you. But if not, if this is an opportunity for you to be very proactive, take a look at all those opportunities that the club has for revenue and figure out how do you drive more revenue to then spend more money on the facility to fill back up those coffers that you need to for capital expenditures and for employment retention as well. Now, that's the other thing that I recommend in this day and time is if you have good employees, take good care of them, thank them, find ways to recognize them. I think for any of us that are on this or are aware of it, right now, finding good people to work for us is probably the hardest it's ever been. So at the same time, we have the most interest of our golf clubs. At the exact same time, we have the hardest time to hire and retain good people. And that is a dangerous paradigm when you're trying to make more money, create more loyalty, and really push your operation in a positive light. So that's something I would take a good look at. Again, and obviously make smart decisions for the core of the club, not the outliers. So I notice a lot of times people are making decisions, whether it's operating hours, food and beverage opportunities. You know, they're changing the way the culture of a club that's more family friendly, because that's where the new members are coming from. As the baby boomers kind of phase out, you know, the Gen Ys, the Gen Xers, they're all coming back in now with their young children. So make smart decisions for the club that's for the future, not just for the outliers, the members that speak up the most or have been there the longest. It's more about the core of the operation. Next slide. Q&A, my favorite slide. I don't know if we have any questions.
Yeah, Eric, we have one. I think you almost answered it in your last comments. From Patrick Casey, has the peaked interest been with core golfers or new golfers?
That's a great question, Patrick. Thank you very much for asking that. You know what we've witnessed? It's been kind of a wild ride. The core golfer has certainly played more and has certainly, you know, if you just talk about like average rounds per month or per year, the core golfer is playing more than they ever have. The other thing is we've created more core golfers. So if our core golfers were in the 200 to 300 range, now we're in the 400 to 500 range. As we've reintroduced people who can either work from home or because golf is one of the only real avenues that they can really spend time with, quality time with either their customers or their, either maybe some of their employees or their community, you know, support system. And that's one side of it. The other thing is we've witnessed a lot of new golfers, which in its own right can be a little bit of a challenge too. So when you have your more core, more play from the core, and then more new golfers, that's why I think we're seeing this huge influx of new play. And I know on our end here at like Monarch, we're all very busy with lessons. And what we're witnessing is the lessons are coming from that same group. Like the core golfers playing more, they have more time, more, maybe they're doing financially well, so they're taking more lessons. The people who are coming back into the game are taking lessons. And then the people who are new to the game got to take lessons to learn the game. So that's another point. Hopefully at this juncture, everyone has had an opportunity to analyze their lesson rates and are collecting the appropriate amount of money for the amount of time that you're putting forth, taking time away from your other operation if you have like your split responsibilities like myself, or from your family as you've elected to teach a little bit more as that interest has come on. So it's a great question, Pat. I think it's a combination of everything. I think that concludes. If there's no other questions, I appreciate this opportunity to participate in the Southern California PGA Golf Industry and Business Seminar. Again, the overreaching theme here is the COVID effect. Hopefully you're being proactive. Hopefully you're driving additional revenue to the bottom line, which in turn you're being able to spend back on your operation and on your staff. And I wish everybody the utmost success here for the rest of 2021, and good luck for 2022. I wish I had that ability, the crystal ball to look into the future, but I don't. But the way I'm feeling is very bullish that golf is in a great spot. If we do our share and do our job of retaining as many of these new golfers and keeping these new core customers happy, I think golf will be in a good, fine position for the next 2 or 3 years. And if you take advantage of some of our ideas, I think you'll be in a good spot as well to financially prove to your owners, your operators, that you are a revenue manager and that you're worth your weight in gold. Have a great day. Thank you for supporting the PGA and Southern California PGA. We'll talk soon. Thank you.
Eric, thanks so much. And just to remind everybody, you will find this presentation in recording on YouTube, sections YouTube. So encourage you to encourage others to take a look at this great presentation by Eric, meaningful presentation. So thank you all for being with us this morning. And thanks to John Kulo and the Education Committee. Bryce, thank you for your help. And Eric, thanks so much.
Thank you. Have a good day, everybody.
Bye, everybody.